Okay, so we have now arrived at the important part of this semester's project, or actually this year's project, when we think about the second semester as well, the first half of it. We are now going to start to create the system. So we have the first piece of the system, which is the letterhead right here. Now we are going to add the second and the third ones, which are the envelope and the business card. And I'm going to show you a very easy way of putting all of these things together, seeing everything together all at once. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to New and Print and View All Presets, A3. You don't need to fool around with anything, just say Create, and there you have it. Now I'm going to go to New again, and I'm going to create the envelope, which is 22 centimeters wide, so that's 220 millimeters, and 110 high. Again, 300 pixels, everything. And then we do this one more time. We create something that is 80 millimeters wide by 50 millimeters high, so 8 by 5 centimeters, which is the business card. Say Create. Then we come back to the letterhead, to the big A3. The letterhead is actually here. This is the big A3, and we need to make this darker. So I just clicked on the bottom color swatch there, just gonna make it like this, and then Control backspace, and now it's darker. Now all you need to do is you need to go to Tile All vertically. You have the first one here. You just unlock this background layer so that it becomes a layer, and then you just drag it here. And here's your envelope on this big A3 piece of thing. So again, you just unlock it so that it becomes a layer, drag it here, and here's your business card. Now these you can just close, you don't need them. For now, you will need to copy paste these things and create new documents that are that size, but we'll get to that later. So now I have the front of the envelope, I have the business card. I need to make a copy of the business card because there's going to be a front and a back, and then I also need to make a flap for the envelope, so I'm just going to make a duplicate of that, and I'm just going to cut off like about this much, because this is about the size that the back flap of an envelope would be, right? So now you can just save this. Envelope BC combined. So now all we do is we just take things from here, drag them over here, and we put together the system based upon the elements that we have here. So the first thing that we drag are these background elements that we have right here. We have the bottom rectangle, which I actually want to release from this folder. So I'm just going to put this here, and I'll get to why I'm doing it like that in a minute. Then we have the logo right here, so we just drag that one here, and you can't see it right now because it's all white, but hang on, let me just put this up here. And what else do we need from here? We need this here, the box for the envelope window, and we need the address, so we can drag that over as well. And these can actually go all the way down to the bottom. They are the two business cards. And so now we actually have everything that we need right here. Now I'm not going to close this because we're going to keep going back and forth and looking at this, but essentially we have all the design elements of this letterhead on this A4 now, and now we're just going to start assembling them and putting them in the right places. Before we start placing things, I'm going to take you back to here to take a close look at what we talked about on this page about the envelope. Now the right hand side of the if it's an envelope without a box, okay, the right hand side is off limits. We can't use that because the address of the recipient of this here would get written here, and then on the upper right hand side would be the postage stamps, or these days of course we no longer use stamps, but it would be that thing that they get out of the machine. If we have one which has a box, we still can't use this upper part because of the stamps, and we still can't use the lower part either because that would confuse the postman. Now if we put words here or letters, or if we take this address and put it here or whatever, then that would become confusing. Now, not that postmen aren't bright, but they handle thousands of letters a day, and they can very easily get confused, and they are used to seeing the address of the recipient either here or inside the box. But when they, even if there's a box on the envelope, if they see something here, they could get very easily confused. So this bottom right hand corner, regardless of whether you have a box, a window for the envelope or not, for the address or not, is off limits, and then the upper right hand side is off limits either, because that's where the postage stamp goes. So keep that in mind when we start putting things together now. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to hold on, make the stroke black. Second thing, I'm going to make all the text black, because what I think needs to happen here is that the logo should be on the front and separated from this background stuff. Can you do that when you are putting together a system? Yes, absolutely you can. You can play around with the elements, you can separate them or bring them together in different ways, provided you pay attention to a couple of things which can't change, and I'm going to get to all of those. But here the text is white, here it's black. Is that okay? Yes, that's okay. Here it's on top of the background elements, here it's separate. Is that okay? Yes, that's okay. What it wouldn't be okay is if the relationship, let me just zoom in here and zoom in here. If the relationship between the stroke and this text here and this text here changes, so in other words, for example, on the envelope, I decide to I decide to move this down. I'm going to put it like, no, I can't do that. It has to be in that same relationship that it is here. Can it become smaller provided you keep the relationship? Yes, it can. No problem at all. Provided you keep the proportions, provided you keep the proportions between the size of the text and the leading and the kerning and all of that, which is actually very, very easy to do in Photoshop, because unlike other softwares where you would need to enter all of the point values and all of the leading values and kerning values again and again when you scale things, like for example in Illustrator that's how you need to do it, or in InDesign that's how you need to do it. In Photoshop you can actually just scale something and it will proportionally scale everything at the same time, so the proportions will never get lost, like so. Now what has happened here is that Aktar here is 11.18 points, and then when we go here, Aktar is 19.26 points. So actually this has now become much smaller than this, but the proportion, the relationship hasn't changed. That's what's important. Okay? Now let's just put this box in its proper place. Oh, I think there's a locked layer here. Yeah, right, exactly. So I need to have this box be in the same exact location that it would be on the envelope, and like here. So I just added those little red rectangles as a guide for myself. And so now let's go to the back flap. Now what I'm thinking is, if I were to put all this stuff here, the let's see, where is it? Yeah, it's all this stuff here. If I were to put this on the front like this, so you would think to yourself, okay, it's here, so it should be here. Yeah, but then, you know, here's where the postage stamps would be. Remember? Here. So I can't really do that. But I do need to keep these elements because they are a part of the identity that I established here. But I can put them on the back flap. So what I need to do is I need to rotate them, because the back flap is of course going to be reversed in terms of direction. I can just scale this. Actually, hold on. Is this exactly centered? Yeah, seems to be exactly centered. So I can just do this. And then I can also take these two and scale them so that they fit the box. And now I have the little flower here, which, oh, hold on, something happened. Yeah, what happened is that I scaled everything together, and then of course the flower got distorted, which I don't want, obviously. So let me just do this, and then do this, and then scale this down so that it actually fits on the flap. So now the elements of the letterhead here, the design elements, the background elements, are now on the back flap. Now I'm going to put the logo and this box here. I want to align them so that it's centered. No, let's keep it for now. And this can become bigger. I was making it smaller to show you. And I can move it up. And now we have the address, for which we need to find a good place. We can't put it here. We can't put it here. It would get confusing for the postman. Here it would get, you know, you would get the postage stamps on top of it. So a good place to put it would be below the logo type. So again, as you can see, here we have it on the bottom, here we have it close to the logo type. Is that okay to do? Yes, that's okay to do. Let me just whoops. Yeah, just my centering this. That was quite bright. Whoops. Nope. So what I'm going to do actually is to make doubly sure that I have everything centered. I'm just going to do this and then scale it down. So the address is going to get considerably smaller. Is that okay to do? Yes, it's okay to do, provided you keep the same proportions that you have here. The same leading proportionally, not, it won't be the same numerically. The important thing is that it is the same in proportion. So this and this, it's centered here, it's centered here, this is bold, this is bold. Now we are getting a problem, because when I put the address right, oops, sorry, I'm on the wrong document. When I put this address close to the logotype, and the logotype already has the line, and that line really should be there, if we remove that line, it's not going to look very good. That the logotype needs that line, so if I remove it, everything starts falling apart, right? That line is actually a very integral part of the logotype. But then we have a second one here, and that starts getting to be too much. This is over design. So this one now needs to go away. But what that means is that it also has to go away here, because it's a system, and you cannot have a line here and then not here. It has to be the same in both places. So it did look very nice here when the address was sitting down here by itself and separated from the logotype, but when I put it together close to the logotype, then it started not to work. Then the line got to be way too much, it became an over design, so that needs to go away. But when that goes away, this goes away also, so that the design remains consistent. So that's a very important thing that you need to keep in mind. Now we have this black box here, and I think we can have the black box. Let's see, where is the black box? It's right here, and we can center it to this. We can keep that the same size. So let's close the box here. Let's close the box here. And now let's look at them together. So we still have the same system in the sense that this is centered, this is centered, this is centered, this is centered. The relationship of the leading and the point size is consistent because we just scaled it down, and in Photoshop we can do that. When we scale things down, we keep the proportions between the leading and the point size, and we keep the proportions of the kerning as well, which doesn't happen in other software. So you can't do the same trick in Illustrator or InDesign, as far as I know. I don't know those softwares as well as I know Photoshop, and I'll be the first to admit that. But as far as I'm aware, you cannot repeat that trick in InDesign or Illustrator. We have the background elements here, the flower, the box. We have it here, except we have it on the back flap. We have the line, and so we do have a system consistency, although things have changed. This was white, it's now black. It used to be on this background, now it's separate. The address was quite far away from the logotype, now it's close together. So all of those things have changed, yes, but the system has actually remained consistent, and that's what you need to keep in mind. And now finally we get to the business cards. But before we get there, I just want to show you that I cleaned all of this up. So I have a folder for the envelope, which I accidentally called letter, so let me change that right now. And then I have an identical one for the business card. So if I move this down here, and then also another thing that I did is I corrected the size of this, because the way that it was that this black box here, this black square, was a little bit too wide. So while you were gone, so to speak, I actually corrected that and I made it more like a square than a rectangle. Okay, so now let's get started on the business card side of things. Now here, what we can do is we can actually, let me just close the vector object for now. We can, this is the back and this is the front of the envelope. We can make the back so that, whoopsie, forgot to press down the shift key here. We can make it so that the back of the envelope is for the logo and then the front of the envelope. So let me just scale this. Well, actually I'm going to make it like this. Sorry. No, I need to sorry people, I need to actually make it the same size so that we have a design consistency, because in all the others it's bleeding off the top and bottom, so it should be like that here as well. So now that's how it is, except I need to be a little bit more careful in how I scale it. Now let's get the vector object, put it here, and now let's get the logo, bring it up here, scale it just a tiny little bit, and then all of this needs to become white again. So that was easy. We have the back, and on the back we have the logo. Now we come to the front, and so here we have a consistency with this now. So we have this stuff on the black background, on the dark background. The logo type is white, this is white, the stroke is white. So this and this are now actually working quite well together, except what I think I might do is I might go back to what I was talking about a little bit earlier. I might actually make this a bit smaller, even though it's, because when I look at it in here, this is, all of this stuff is coming out, and it should come out here as well. If I make this go like so, let's see how that looks. It is no longer a square, so what I think I would prefer is that it's a square and we have a little bit of gray sticking out at the top and the bottom. I think that is actually going to be more consistent with this design. And or what we might do is we might actually no, we can't do that because we don't have enough space here. I was thinking that we might be able to do that here and here as well, but we can't, because if we make this box smaller and then have more gray coming out at the top and the bottom, what would happen is that we would start to get inside the area of the box, so that wouldn't work. So this and this would stay like this, but here I would actually probably use it like this, because although we have the gray coming out of here and here, we also have these things coming out, which is the way that I think they are supposed to be if they want to be consistent with that. Okay, so now let's actually get to here, and I'm going to do this because we need to come in closer here. Now we have the front of the envelope, sorry, the business card, where actually we have quite a bit more material. But before I get to that, what I actually want to do is I want to go back to the letterhead and let's see, the envelope, sorry, I keep getting confused. So here are the address bits, which is this thing right here, and I want to make sure that these are actually correct point sizes, not bits and pieces, but you know, sort of either 4 or 5 or 6 or whatever. So right now this is 483. If I go up to 5, is that enough? I could probably actually go up to 6. In which case, however, I would need to increase this point size to probably about 8, so that I still have that consistency with the letterhead. So let me actually zoom in. Zoomed in too much here, and zoom in here, and look at this. I need to look at both of them side by side. Does this look about right? No, this still looks like as if it can become a little bit wider. So I'm going to make this 8.5. Now let's see if it... Yes, now it looks about right. But this area here, this here needs to open up. So I need to catch... Hold on, let me just zoom out so that I can get the whole line here. So this is 8.59. I'm guessing it's going to have to be something like around 11. Does that look right? Does that look a little bit too open now? See, you really have to do some very fine work, almost like a jeweler, to make sure that you have all of these consistent, so that this looks consistent to that. Okay? Now let's get back to here. And what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to take this and bring it down here, because we need the same exact information in the business card as well. But what I'm also going to do before I do anything else is I'm just going to click on the front business card layer here, and I'm just going to put this guide over here so that everything is nice and centered. Now let's zoom in and see what's going on here. So yes, this is nice and centered now, but this is not the only information that's obviously going to go on a business card. Now the very first thing that I'm going to do, before I even forget to do it, is I'm going to add his cell phone number, because this is a business card and he needs his own personal number, 532-788, I'm just making something up, 9654. Great. We need to add his name. So, Sarman Tekir, whoops, Tekir Efendi, and he is the general director, of course. Now, this obviously needs to come in closer together. It looks too far away. I mean, it looks perfectly okay here, but here this distance looks too much. So let me just check this. What's this distance here? It's 8.5. So this can also be 8.5, so that we have that consistency as well. Is this centered? Yes, it is. I can narrow this down so that when I transform it, it's going to be easier for me. Don't worry, he will follow. It's always a good idea to use the transform commands for aligning things that are centered. I know I've said this before, I'm going to just say it again. Now, we also have a stroke here, which should be right here, and I think in this particular case, this can live here. It's okay if there's one in the back as well, because this is the back, this is the front, so there's no over design here. They won't be seen both at the same time. This can go up, and we're still not done yet, because people also have their Facebook and their Instagram information on their business cards nowadays, their personal business cards. So what I did is I went to FreePic, where there's a gazillion social media icons. I just downloaded the very first one, opened it in Illustrator. Now I'm just going to take this, Control C, and Control V, just leave it exactly like that. And then I'm also going to take his Instagram, and put that in here as well. Now we can go back to the F. Now these obviously are, let me just call this Instagram so that I don't get confused later, and let me call this Facebook. So these two obviously need to become much smaller, like this looks about right. The Instagram, let me just move that over here. Now let me take this, another copy of this. I'll delete all of this stuff, just leave this line here, and just write facebook.com/Tekir Efendi. Now this is a centered design, but I don't want to put these social media icons in that centered way too, because I think that's going to make it kind of boring. I want to leave them like this. So let's get the Instagram, and what I'm shooting for is to have like a roughly equal space with that. And let's see, FB address, let me just duplicate that and make this Instagram. So I don't really want to eyeball. I want to align these exactly, or as close as I can get them to be. So one thing I need to have is, so I'm using a rectangle for that. So I need this space to be equal to this space, which it almost is. Then I need this here to be equal, let me actually zoom in, to this here. Actually, hold on, let me do this first. Again, like I said, this kind of work involves quite a bit of jewelry. And now, actually what I'm going to do is going to, open this up, align that to the center, take the Facebook address and this, and move it in a tick. Now, make the Instagram icon move out a bit, make the icon move out a bit, close the rectangle, and now these should be more or less centrally aligned. Now, what I'm also going to do is I'm going to take this and this and group it together and call it FB, and I'm going to take this and this and group it together and call it Instagram, because I will be needing these in my other designs as well, so it's a good idea to have them be together. I think they're falling apart a little bit so I'm just going to move this in 2 ticks and this 2 ticks from the other direction, and in fact 1, 2 more and 1, 2 more, so that they don't fall apart. So now, last thing, that's the actual address, so let's not call that, and this is Sarman, so let's give that a name. I think this needs to be bigger because he is the boss, so I'm going to make it bigger. Too big, probably, yes. I think this needs to come in more, so let's make it 10.5. Actually, let's make it 10. Let's actually make it 9.5. Yes, now they are actually creating a nice little togetherness. So this can come in. The stroke can come down a bit. Sarman can come down a little bit more. And there it is. Now we still have this little guy here. So he can go up top. Actually, guess what? Remember, I was having such a hard time configuring this here that it wasn't setting up the same relationship that we have here and then also on the letterhead. How about if I were to bring this down here the way that we have it on the letterhead, and then have this one. Let's see, is this the right one? No, it isn't. Is this the right one? Yes, it is. So if I were to move this up, no, won't work because it's doing something rather silly here. Okay, nice try, didn't work. So let's center it, and then I'm also going to make it smaller, but since I'm scaling it down proportionately, it's still going to have the same proportion of height and width. It's just going to be smaller. Is this working? Is it too much? Do I need it? Don't I need it? No, I don't think I need it. Actually, I don't think I want to do that. However, I'm going to get back to here. Is this the right one? Yes, because I'm still obsessing about this. I'm going to see if I can make it a bit bigger, if that might work better. Probably, yes. So, that is how I would do the business card. As you can see, the business card has a lot of information on it. But again, centered, centered, centered. These two are centered to these, although they are not centered to each other. Gray background, gray background, gray background, black box, black box, black box, although here there is a small inconsistency that I'm not completely happy about. What I would probably do, if this was a real project, is I would probably trim the business card from 8x5 to something like 8x4, and which you can do. You can make it smaller, you can't make it bigger. Black rectangle, black rectangle, white text, black text, but it's all centered. The logo is identical. All the leadings are equal. The proportions of the leadings are equal to here and here and here and here. So these are the kinds of things that you need to pay attention to. And I will show you how to make one more in the next tutorial, and then that will hopefully be it. See you later.